Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Film Fan Club Show. I am Sam Carrico, and tonight we get to do one of my favorite annual segments. Coming up later in the show, Cade Thomas joins us to help break down the top 10 best films of 2023. I know what you're thinking. Sam, what gives you the right to decide what's the best film of 2023? And I'll tell you, it's a little joke called the Golden Globes. Now, it's funny how much hype surrounds the Golden Globes every year. People get all worked up about what's gonna win their best picture, best director, actor, you name it. But let's be real here, folks. In comparison to the Oscars, the Golden Globes should be taken just about as seriously as Joe Biden's opinion of the Eras Tour.
Rip Whitney's tour, she's down in, it's kind of warm in Brazil right now.
Why, you may ask? Well, for starters, did you know that only 300 people vote for the Golden Globes? That's right, a mere 300 people have the power to determine who takes home those coveted trophies. I mean, I can convince 300 people to do anything.
People had actually breached the building.
Compare that to the Oscars, where a whopping 9,500 members have a say in their winners. Now tell me, which award show do you think holds more weight? Not to mention various accusations of corruption have plagued the Globes for years. According to the LA Times via Vox, quote, members were richly wined and dined and showered with lavish gifts by studios hoping that their shows and movies would garner nominations. In the story, some of the details came to vivid life. For instance, the Paramount Network, which produces Emily in Paris for Netflix, brought 30 members to Paris for 2 nights at a $1,400 per night hotel. And indeed, the show landed 2 Golden Globe nominations, end quote. Now, as many of you may know, I worked tirelessly day in and day out making the hit film Killers of the Flower Moon. And when people get all up in arms about Oppenheimer beating it at the Golden Globes, I can't help but roll my eyes. Firstly, how can we be sure Oppenheimer won fairly? Furthermore, 300 members versus 9,500, it's like comparing a puddle to the vast ocean that is the Oscars. Sure, the Globes may be a fun night for celebrities to dress up and party, but let's not forget, it's just a popularity contest at the end of the day. Don't get me wrong, Christopher Nolan is a brilliant director. I enjoyed Florence's Pews as much as the next guy. But when it comes down to it, I believe the voting members of the Academy will understand that Martin Scorsese's film has what it takes to win the Oscar for Best Picture. Killers of the Flower Moon is a powerful, thought-provoking story that sheds light on a dark chapter in American history. Scorsese's direction is masterful. The performances were top-notch. The transportation department did an amazing job. And the production value is simply stunning. So while the Golden Globes may be a fun night of glitz and glam, let's not forget where the real prestige lies. And mark my words, come Oscar night, Killers of the Flower Moon will take home the trophy for Best Picture, cementing its rightful place in American history. Okay, we've got a great show for you tonight. Let's get right to our discussion of the best films of 2023. All right, let's welcome tonight's guest. He is the host of the podcast Double Feature Movie Club and the host of Cade and Friends. You can find him on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Cade Thomas is back with us. Hey, Cade.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Sam.
I figured we were talking about beforehand, we'll do kind of rapid fire 10 through 6 for time's sake, and then we'll kind of dive more in depth with our 5 leading up to our number 1 best picture of 2023. But of course, there's something that I want to talk about. Barbie, big front runner for best picture this year, is not on either of our lists in the top 10 films of 2023. Before we get into our lists, people are wondering why. It's going to be the elephant in the room. Why no Barbie? I'd like to start with you, though, Cade. Let's give you the floor. Why isn't Barbie? Why do you hate women?
Yeah. Thanks for that lead in. I mean, that is, even whenever I posted it, kind of the elephant in the room. Everyone wants to know why not Barbie. We talked about Barbie. So if you want to get like my full thoughts on that, it was right out of the theater on our show. We did a Barbenheimer special, and we had all 3 just came back from Barbie, and I think it was more positive, my initial thoughts on it. And it's just been one of 2 films that I've continued to sour on this season after watching it. And that is one that is just, I feel like it missed a lot of big things. I mean, it's funny. It's good. It's great production value. I mean, I think I could say all this positive things. I love Noah Baumbach and I love Greta Gerwig. So I mean, I love a lot of their things. And Margaret, I mean, I hate that I have to, throw all these pleasantries this way in order to say criticisms of it. But it's really it's a solid film. But I can't get behind a lot of what it's saying, and a lot of, like, I mean, it very much feels like the 101 course of like philosophy and feminist theory thrown at you at a rapid fire pace. And I think it's made to make people, oh, I've heard that in one of my college 101 courses. And it's meant to make the audience feel that way, pat them on the head about, knowing the basics of economics and different things. So but at the same time, I at the core of its film is this idea that there is a gender binary in which men and women are fundamentally different from each other. That is at the core of its value. And you think that it's saying a lot of this is society made, and yet it doesn't take, I mean, that's like almost the core thing. And then it attacks it from both sides, and its solution has nothing to do with like the destruction of that, nothing to do, like, they don't do anything with that idea. I think it's a film that we will fundamentally look at in just a few years of being like, this is behind the ball of where we're at. And I think that it was behind it was behind where it was released at. It's very much the humor of, here's the 2010s BuzzFeed humor is what it felt like. It was very millennial. It was very not of its time. And furthermore, I think that it is not where society was. I mean, men and women, the success of this film was both men and women coming to the theater and supporting this. I mean, we're wearing pink, women were wearing pink, everyone was wearing pink and going to this movie. Yeah. This movie further divided a thing that shouldn't exist. I mean, the gender, in my opinion, shouldn't exist as a construct in the way that it does in the modern age. And this movie is saying that a lot of these ideas, a lot of these divisions are made by societies, whether that's in Barbie Land or whether that's in the real world. And yet by the end of the movie, it still upholds the gender binary. And that is my main problem with this film. And I mean, also it kind of still doesn't do anything with the capitalistic arc and all that different stuff. So I mean, the two biggest problems I think that are facing society is this sort of binary divide between ideas, whether that is gender, whether that's politics, whether it's all these different things, this sort of binary view of the world. That's one of our biggest problems, and capitalism is one of our biggest problems. And this movie does its best to uphold both of those things. And I think that's wrong.
I agree with you about some of the points. I agree with you about the dividing. I can see, yeah, men and women coming together to watch Barbie in theaters for the men to then be told that they're the problem and that they should stop trying to romance their friend Barbie. And the movie is not very sympathetic to the Ken character at all. He is a caricature at his heart, but he has some serious grievances, and it's not interested in finding I thought it's one of the things that always bothers me are we for equality, or are we for putting women in the perceived place of the patriarchy? Are we for like getting rid of the patriarchy, or do you just want to take over it? And then another other thing is America Ferrera's speech is great. She's a great, actress and all this stuff. But then I
loved Ugly Betty whenever I was a kid.
I haven't seen it, but it's how far she's come. She looks gorgeous in the film. And she's a great character, great actress. But somebody pointed out to me that the whole speech she has, the monologue, a lot of it does apply to both genders, and a lot of the problems, depending on who you are. And then it just kind of invisibilizes the plight that a lot of men or non-women presenting people go through. And it just basically says only women. It feels very exclusive. And I don't think the film is really interested in reconciling that cognitive dissonance that it seems to have. So I don't know if we're a little bit of crossing over, but I don't know if we're entirely in simpatico. But I see a lot of agreement there. That's why I didn't include it. I like the film. I mean, I think it's a fun, but the theme is very muddled. And the third
act
I had fun watching it.
has so many issues of like how it resolves all of its things. And in like for a film that's so complex and trying to like do all these different ideas, like they have all these ideas up in the air, and for them to just be like resolve it in this sort of way that's just simplifies it, I think does detriment to the themes that it's attempting to talk about. And I think that's where it falls apart. But I don't know. That's
That's Barbie, though. That's our discussion of that. We never covered it actually on this show, the Film Fan Club show, and
mm,
we weren't going to get the opportunity to cover it as part of the top 10 of the year. So
mhm.
I figured we should just throw it in right there. Hate to be a
Mhm.
Debbie Downer, but
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of positives, and like if you want to see we record talk more about positives, watch the show because I mean it means a lot to a lot of people, and I think that that's good. So there's that.
means a lot to Hillary Clinton.
It
Anyways,
does.
she
Hashtag
made a
Hillary Barbie.
yeah. Oh my God. So you've seen the tweet. Okay. With that, now I'll start. We're going to run through our number 10 through number 6 really quickly. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but there's a couple movies worth giving a shout out. On my number 10, I have Infinity Pool. Number 9, I have Beau is Afraid. Infinity Pool and Beau is Afraid were just both very weird, very cool. I like the premise. I like the way they're executed. Beau is Afraid has got a fantastic performance by Joaquin Phoenix. Number 8 on my list is Past Lives. Three very great performances. I love the story. It's a very modern day love story and very unconventional. I liked all that stuff about it. Number 7, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Part 1 of 1. We have that. I liked it a lot. It was great when I saw it in the theaters. And number 6, I have The Iron Claw. It's mostly held up by its amazing cast. Lily James is a great supporting actress in it. But man, it's a sad story. I knew nothing about the people in the story, but until I saw it, so I was just kind of approaching it as a movie, and so there's some historical things that it may not get right, but as a movie, I thought it was very compelling. So number 6 on my list is The Iron Claw. Kay, do you have any takeaways from my number 10 through number 6 list? I know some of them we'll talk about later on your list.
Past Lives have not seen yet. We do plan on covering it on double feature, so I am excited about that one. That one looks really, really good. And that's one of the big ones I feel like I've missed that would likely, if I, it seems like it's a candidate for being in the top 10 just from what I've seen and it being
Great
talked
movie.
about. Yes. So I look forward to that. And then Iron Claw, I really wanted to like that. I do think part of my enjoyment was muddled by the fact that I'm fairly certain I caught COVID at the theater there from a
Ooh,
coughing kid in front of me. So
I hate
that's
children.
yeah. So the entire movie, it didn't start till halfway through, and then it was a coughing fit. And like they brought this family, it was a husband and wife, and they brought their 2 kids, and this kid just coughed and coughed and coughed, openly coughed in the middle of this whole movie. And I'm like, and then next. A few days later, I tested positive. I'm like, well, that's the only
Isn't it
person I've
rated
been around.
R? Is it the Iron Claw rated R? Like 3 characters die in that movie. Let's bring
Yeah,
the kid. Let's
it's
bring
really good.
Junior.
Yeah, they seem like they were wrestling fans, so that
Mm.
the father was at least. So
Get a
but I saw that
sitter.
with yeah, I saw that with my father as well, and I mean, he knew all about that sort of time period and these people and everything. So I mean, that was an interesting perspective because I didn't know really anything about the Von Erichs. I
Yeah.
a lot of my problems with I loved like the first part of that film when the kid wasn't coughing, and we really got to stick with the story of these characters, and then like halfway through it just becomes a clip show of tragedy, and I'm like, no, this is your movie.
Yeah.
Why are we spinning through this? But I don't know. It was still. I mean, the fact that Zac Efron hasn't didn't get any nominations along this award season is, I think, a little bit of a problem because I
He
do
did
think that was
really
the
he
standout.
did really well in the movie. I loved
Hmm.
him. And as a High School Musical 2 fan, it's just a
Oh,
great to see how far he's come. Let's
later,
hear
but yeah.
your 10 through 6.
10 for me was Thanksgiving, Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I saw this, I've seen a few movies because I had a free upgrade for this D-Box setting at the theater, and that was one. And so every time a knife went, you get jarred with the seat. It was like, I don't know, but that was one of the things. But it was fun. It was like, I remember anytime I'm like halfway through the movie and I'm like, this is just like a really fun ride, and I don't want this to stop. Like, the third act has a lot of problems, and it's what makes it fall so far on my list. But those first 2 acts are just endlessly fun. And it's just a really fun movie to watch, and I highly recommend it. And it's dark, and it's comedic, and it's everything you'd want in that. And then it kind of falls apart in the third act, but it has a lot of goodwill. 9 for me was Dream Scenario. I I really, really liked this movie a lot. I thought that it was a great Nick Cage performance. And I love the vibe of it. I love the Talking Heads of it all. Big Talking Heads fan. A24 loves Talking Heads too, so it's always great. Nick Cage, A24, Talking Heads, you got me. And it just interesting, sympathetic protagonist that you really don't see too much in film. And I really end up feeling for the guy by the end of it real deeply. Eight for me was the creator. Um, just on a the story's not all that spectacular, but just from the visual component of it, it just in how it was like, we know now it was shot on like a lower end
Hmm.
camera and everything. It made it feel real. But one of the things I don't think is talked about enough is the sound design in that movie is one of the most interesting sound designs heard in a long time for films, and like the way that music would be like in one corner, and like it was different than what you would imagine. So like as they're experimenting with the visual nature, they're experimenting with the sound in an interesting way. We just hear sound almost always the same in movies, and this was one that I was like, both it's doing this really high level experiment on a technical level, and it needs to be seen in a theater. I don't think you would be able to really I mean, it doesn't. It won't. I don't know. I don't think it would be as good on a TV. But anyways, seven is Scream 6, for me,
Yeah.
which we talked about previously on film fan club. The yeah, no, I liked it. I mean, Scream's going to be on there. I'm a huge fan of Scream.
Would
And
you if
I
would is there any world where this not is it I guess my question is it's well documented. I thought Scream 6 was a huge step down from Scream 5, which I loved. I thought was fantastic. It's probably
mm,
my third favorite. I don't know. Maybe my fourth favorite. It's up there on the higher end, Scream 5. Scream 6 is on the
mm,
lower end, if not the bottom
mm,
of my. So I guess my
mm.
question is there a world where they made a Scream movie that wouldn't be in your top 10? How earned is this? Is
How
this?
earned? Okay, you're trying to press me on this. No, I like the movie a lot. I think that it's another movie that's kind of hampered by certain decisions toward the tail end. But that to me, like you have a checklist of things that it like a Scream movie has to do. It's got to not destroy the characters, which no Scream movie has done yet. I don't think. And I think, but to me, that opening, it still sticks with me as one of the best opening scenes of a Scream
It
movie.
is good.
And it turns it on its head, and it's like, and I really love that 6 movies into this franchise, that they're very much like they're setting you up to be like a franchise film, like that, like, and it's all the trailer. I mean, like it kind of
Yeah.
used that whole like of what the trailers are showing and all that. I think it was a very meta take on it, the fact that which is great for Scream. If like, no, this is not a franchise film, and that's the whole thesis of the movie, is like, you think that we're doing a franchise film. We're not doing a franchise film. It's in fact, we're going to almost make fun of that idea of it being a franchise, and that to me was very interesting. It was the fact that like it paired well with the last Scream, which killers at the end, where movie fans, you assume that's going to continue through, and it's like, no, these are, it's not. These are people that are not fans of the movie, and it's almost, Scream always makes these references to Star Wars, and I think that this is. I'm not a huge Last Jedi fan, but this is the Last Jedi, like purposefully mocking Last Jedi in that way, where it's like saying that we're going to not be a franchise film, where Star Wars shouldn't be meta. It should not be meta. Star Wars should not be meta at all. It
Scream
makes
is all
sense for,
about that,
yeah,
is what you're saying. Okay.
yeah.
Well, I still disagree with you, but I see more where you're coming from. I just, the top number
Mhm.
seven of all the movies to come out in 2023. I'm like, my
Yeah,
gosh.
I just enjoy Scream, and and yeah, if as long as they don't do a detriment to the franchise, and they sort of continue it in an interesting way each time, it probably will be in my best of the year always, because I do just love that franchise, and I love that just that world. I think it's a fascinating thing. Um, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not. This is not a lightning round, is it?
No, you're good. You're good. It's fine. You got number six, and then we'll start. I'll start counting
Yeah.
down my five.
So 6 for me is Priscilla. It's one that it was this and my 5 were very, very, very close. We talked about that on Double Feature, and I love this movie. It's one that I don't think enough people either got or I mean, maybe it just didn't speak to him. I don't. It's odd to me because I think it's one of the best films of the year. It's one of the most solid films. To me, it seems more universal than a lot of other films that come around, and but still has a interesting hook to it. That I the fact that this isn't the sort of feminist movie of the year that people are talking about, like I don't understand it. To me, this Sophia Coppola should be in the talks for being best director of the year because I think this is one of the most sure-handed and just beautiful films as far as like technically and just it's unique and it's she understands tone in this way that's just I think Sophia Coppola is one of our great directors that's working today, and the fact that she's not in the conversation for best director for this film is insane. And personally, I believe Kaylee Spaney, if I believe that's how she pronounces her name, she as Priscilla is the best lead actress performance of the year. This is an incredible performance, and a one that takes you through different life change. And like in she just personifies it, but it's not flashy. It's that I think that's part of it. It's just it's understated, but it you feel for this character, and by the end, it's one of it's that and Dream Scenario on different ends. But this one was one that I just like. By the end of it, I just felt that character on a personal level, and it made me think of just different um women in different times, and like makes you think of your family and famous people, and the way that you just it's just it just stuck with me in a way that like I was just seeing in the theater just profoundly impacted by this story. And it's a movie and Sophia Coppola does this expertly where it would be easy to say here's your hero and here's your villain. And I think that's what a lot of
Yeah.
people assume this movie is, but it's not. It's done with this sort of complex nature of like that it's even hard to put words behind. Whereas,
Mhm.
like, everything's so handed to you with Barbie of like, here's what you're supposed to think, and here's your language, and here's the words and what you're supposed to believe in this sort of thing. And most movies are that way. It's not just fair to sort of pick Barbie out of that.
I was going to
Most
leave it a little bit more vague, but you're like, yeah, this versus Barbie clears.
but just I mean, but a lot of films are like, here's your good guy, here's your bad guy,
Right.
here's what the language in which you need to talk about this film with. This is one that leaves you with none of that sort of language and way to talk about it, and it's just a feeling. It's just her movies are so hard to sort of even talk about because they are so complex in their emotional readings. And so this is one of these movies that it's like it would be easy to say that Elvis is the bad guy because of all the awful things that you do, but I think that discounts really the complex relationship that they had and the way that Priscilla felt through all of that. And it's a movie that would be easy to say here's the good guy and bad guy, but Sophia Coppola does not make it that clean cut. And I think that that's a mark of a really genius filmmaker that who has never gotten the credit that she deserves.
I'll
Mm-hmm.
start with my number five in my top five movies of 2023. Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's 3 hour epic about the making of the atomic bomb. I wanted to see the explosions. I wanted to see the historical stuff. I'm a big history nerd. I obviously love explosions, but really the way that they brought the characters. It's such a cliche to say, but Cillian Murphy's portrayal of Robert Oppenheimer and Florence Pugh as his mistress and Emily Blunt. It was a really well performed ensemble, I guess. It's a good movie. Everybody likes it. I feel like I'm not breaking any new ground here. Christopher Nolan has a great career, but this is kind of I feel like the pinnacle of his career. He made something like this, a biopic about Robert Oppenheimer, feel epic and grandiose. So by the time that the bomb went off, a lot of people said they were just waiting for the bomb to go off, but I wasn't because I got so enthralled in the narrative. It's also fun to see a who's who of Hollywood because everybody in Hollywood is in this movie. Again, I feel like this is my most vanilla take, but yes, Oppenheimer's good. Is it great? Is it going to beat Killers of the Flower Moon at the Oscars? I mean, I don't think so. It shouldn't. Killers of the Flower Moon is longer, just by any metric. It just outdoes Oppenheimer by any metric. You want to talk about taking a biopic and raising the scale. What is Martin Scorsese? We'll get there. Oppenheimer's fine. It's number 5 on my list. It should not win Best Picture. Cade, you can react to that if you want, but then let's hear your number 5.
Yeah, I'll react to that in a moment. No, yeah, I remember Diane had one of the she went to go see Oppenheimer, and she said that someone in the theater walked in, some guy's like, "Let's see these bombs." He said right before he walked in. It's like, boy, and she's like, I don't think that he was happy with the film that he saw. So yeah, I'll talk about more. But now my number five is the holdovers. I Another one. I always have these movie theater experiences, but that was an interesting one with different people there. They We talked about that in there. We always like talking about our movie theater experience when we go, because there's always some weirdo in there, and this one was some lady who just audibly reacted to every bit to this movie of like, oh, that's sad. Oh, that's that makes me feel just constantly of like just reacting to what the emotion is that you're supposed to feel at that time. Oh, that's good for them, you know. And one of my favorites is like they go through extended part of this movie takes place in Boston, and they say like, we're at Boston, 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 and like we're there for like 20 minutes, and she turns over and she's like, no, where are they at? New York? And he's like, no, it's Boston. And she's like, oh, okay. Anyways, just fun thing. The holdovers. I mean, I just think this is a perfect movie. It's weird that these sort of things like Priscilla holders are so low in my link. I'll talk why, but later with the comparisons. But I think the holdovers is a movie that is just about as perfect as that type of movie could be. It is that script is just so tight and so perfect, and each character leads to something else, and it is just one of the in these performances. I mean, it gives this movie routinely rests the movie on these really excellent performances from each of these characters, and they're given the weight of the movie on their shoulders routinely in even just like supporting roles with Divine, like all of these, like it's held together by all of these things, and that performance is just extraordinary, just like Paul Giamatti's, and just like whatever the kid's name was, I forget what his name is. All of them, Dominic Sessa, I think is his name. All of them are really just expert, and even side characters. It's firing in all cylinders. And then you have a director like Alexander Payne, who could get in the way of all of that, like as a lot of directors do, of just step in front of it and be like, I'm going to do something very showy and do my part so everyone knows it. But no, he does a very sure-handed way of like, these are the script and the characters. That's what you're coming for. I'm just going to do my best to elevate those things. And that is a great director, in my opinion, of like these character dramas of just like, we're just going, I'm like, they shoot it on film and it's obviously like they have a look to it, but it doesn't get in the way of performances or the script, of the elevation of the script. And so it does have flair to it, but not distracting.
So my number four of 2023 best film is one that you actually talked about a little bit, Priscilla. So I'm just going to echo a lot of the things that you had to say about it. Amazing performances by Kaylee Spaney and Jacob Elordi. I love the message of the film. I didn't know a lot. Similarly with The Iron Claw, I didn't know a lot about Priscilla Presley other than that she was married to Elvis Presley. So I didn't know a lot of things, like he met her at a very young age. He kind of took a lot of very sketchy things. You should see the movie if you want to get a better idea. So, but also on a level of just being a story, I thought it was just a fantastic film. I thought it was great with character arcs that went places that were nice, very well acted. Sofia Coppola, there might be something to this director, because this is the first Sofia Coppola movie I ever watched, and I loved it. It's fantastic. Fourth best film of the year. And then I went back and watched Lost in Translation. Have you seen that one, Cade? That's a good movie.
That's one. I'm a big fan of hers. I've never seen Lost in Translation, so that is her big. Yeah.
You should see. It's got Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson. They're in Tokyo, and
I know about the movie.
It's good. It's good. Have you ever heard of it? Sofia Coppola. I think her dad might even be a director too. Is what I hear.
I'll have to check out his stuff. Yeah, I haven't ever.
What has he done? Huh? No, I've never seen Godfather Part 3 though. So that might be why I like Sofia Coppola so much. I've never seen Godfather Part 3.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things like in that movie. Like I just think of like how she shot different. Like she's in the kitchen with her mother while like the men are like talking about her, and like that's just understood through film language. It doesn't have to be like hit you over the head. Like it's like shot through the doorway of the thing. Like there's just so many just in the feeling of the movie. I mean, it's just an expert film. I
love the cinematography. Just early in the film, I get a sense of like, oh, this is going to be like this isn't just a movie. This is like like a film.
Yeah.
It was good. I liked it a lot. But yeah, we're talking about being the
Mm-hmm.
feminist film of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
It does annoy me that Barbie is so cookie cutter,
Mm-hmm.
so vanilla, so boring in its themes and its messaging and the way that it gets there. Whereas Priscilla is very nuanced. It doesn't shit on men as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
It does show you an example of a stereotypical male who
Mm-hmm.
acts badly, and then yeah, if that connects to other, maybe, hey, we might be talking about a larger theme here instead of
Mm-hmm.
saying you lot, screw you. It's a
Yeah.
very Priscilla's fantastic. So what are we on? Your number 4 now?
Four, and my number four.
Okay.
My number four is Godzilla minus one. This was the other film that I had an upgrade for that T-box seating.
Oh,
I don't feel like I'm being I'm plugging this thing that I typically would never watch a movie that way, but yeah, I
and
watched in
explain
that.
what that is. Is that like the shaking
The
seats or
shaking
whatever?
seats, yeah.
Okay.
And I was at the last showing of the night. I went by myself to this thing, and it was a pretty empty theater, and it's this giant theater, and I'm in the middle of it, the only person in the shaking seat. I felt like I had the whole movie to myself. It was I mean, like, that's why I haven't seen the one with minus color, even though I would really enjoy it, because, well, one, it's too soon to the I've already seen it, and I'm like, I need some time from this
Right.
movie.
It's a heavy
To
movie.
It's a heavy movie, and I'm like, I want to see that, and I want to see it in theaters, but it's I just don't know if I can do that all again.
Sure.
Um, and then also none of them were in the giant theater, and so I'm like, that was part of it. Like, I just loved that this movie would go back and forth
Yeah.
between just some of the most, I mean, this is the best monster movie I've seen as far as like the monster perspective, like of just like the kaiju big things, of just like how that was done in a way that was like viscerally terrifying, in a
Yeah.
way that like I've I grew up watching monster movies with my grandmother, and so I've seen all these, like, these Godzilla movies and these different things, and I've seen other things, and
So
all the
you're
King
saying
Kongs.
this is not only the best Godzilla movie, it's the
Hmm.
best kaiju monster movie that you've ever
Yeah,
seen.
from a, like, the if the point is to be terrified of it, if the point is like this is a terrifying large creature type thing, and you're actually supposed to be viscerally terrified of it, I think it does that part best.
Yeah.
And because and that is like it. I can't remember the last time that's just been that, like, it's done in such a amazing way that you feel the scale of this creature and the destruction it's doing and all of that, paired with the fact that it's just a really great character drama, and a war story, and I was blown away, like, in it, and that could seem jarring to go from, and it is, but it plays, I mean, that's the point of it, and it plays that really well. It plays like the horrors of war and all of that, and then the character
Yeah.
beats and all of that, and then I just loved being in this chair that would go from being a stationary theater seat to in this character drama, and then all of a sudden Godzilla, and then you're like on like a theme park ride, and it was like this is peak cinema as far as I'm concerned, as far as it going, from this really
Wonder
intense
how Martin
character.
Scorsese feels about that. It's literally turning it into a amusement
It's
park ride.
yeah, it's both. This movie is both. This movie is
Yeah.
it excels on both ends
That's what's
of
crazy
this.
about it. It's I'll say, I guess, Godzilla number minus one is my third favorite film of the
Oh,
year, so it's a
perfect.
perfect segue.
Mhm.
I absolutely love the film. It was a great, again, the performances are fantastic. They're performing in a language that I don't understand, and I'm reading subtitles in the performance,
Mhm.
which is just a natural barrier to me getting a great performance or receiving a great performance out of it. But even then, the actors were able to come through with a fantastic performance. I think it's just they're all undeniably good performances. The leads in this film, I was very much taken in by that. So, and another thing is, everybody has said these things, so they're not groundbreaking takes, but
Mhm.
the least favorite part of a Godzilla film for me has always been the human element of it, and
Mhm.
that's why 2014 Godzilla kind of failed on that level. It had a
Yeah,
lot of potential, and then uninteresting human characters really killed that film. In
absolutely.
1999 Godzilla, similarly, although it's been longer since I've seen that one, or 98, 99, around there.
Mhm.
And but this one, the human characters are my favorite part of the story. I mean, I'm not bored. I'm not waiting for Godzilla to come back whenever it switches to them. It's just a great on both levels. So I mean,
Mhm.
minus one. I haven't seen it minus color, but
Mhm.
the doing Godzilla in broad daylight, even stuff like that, like, is very hard because 2014 Godzilla had to lean on the shadows a lot to make him and make the CGI look good too. This that was done on a budget of like what, 10 million US dollars, something like that.
Yeah.
It's incredible. They're able to make it better than some of the American Godzilla movies in terms of just looking real, on a lesser budget. It just goes to show Hollywood, you don't need those huge budgets.
Yeah, I mean, just from a technical standpoint, it is amazing, and it should. I'm glad that it's getting nominated for a lot of these technical things because, like that, and I think the creator is both showing that a lot of these visual effects can be made on a budget and look better than a lot of these, almost all of these Hollywood movies. It just puts it to shame of just in that it seems so real, like in a way that a lot of these effects now seem so hollow, and it can be done on a lower budget, if there's craft behind it and there's a vision, and it's all, I guess they can maybe talk about how that they were able to do that on such a budget, but it's two of the best visual effects of the year were ones that were lower on the lower end of the budget spectrum. And yeah, like I said, moving film. It shouldn't. It. It was a very, very moving film, and by the end, I was crying on it because it was just a incredibly human movie for Godzilla movie, and at the center was this sort of. It could have fell into melodrama too, and it bordered on that, but it didn't, didn't cheapen it by any ways. It still was very affecting and moving thing. So yeah, I would recommend anyone go watch that because it is one of the most unique films of the year at the very least too.
I should mention that we do have an episode coming up closer to the release of Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. We'll be talking to Hilton Price and a young actor named Eduardo Saucedo. They both saw the film, and we're all three of us are going to have a discussion about it. So stay tuned for a more in-depth discussion of Godzilla minus Kong. Minus Kong is the joke. It's Godzilla because Godzilla X Kong. So we got anyways. Don't need to explain the joke.
It's called the subtitles A New Empire.
The American film that's coming up is Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, and of course we'll be covering that when it comes out. But in the lead up to Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, which looks terrible, we are gonna kind of cleanse our palate a little bit with Godzilla -1. So that'll be a fun episode.
My third favorite film of the year, one you talked about before, is Beau is Afraid. I don't think this is a perfect film. Like, in all honesty, like technically in a lot of these other ones, they are more of a complete package of that. I really liked all the things of, but I will routinely give grace to a movie that swings for the fences and maybe whiffs a few things, but hits it out of the park a few different times. And I think this is a movie that it has these ebbs and flows that I think an auteur-driven cinema can do, but the heights that it goes to are kind of unparalleled in different films of the year. Does it have some problems? Yes. Is it too long? Yes. Is there even whole sections of this movie that I'm not even a fan of? Yes. But there are portions of this movie that are just some of the best things of the year and some of the best things I've seen in cinema for many years. There are really great themes in this and really great things. And I do think if I was able to just go in and cut out the things I wouldn't like, this would be probably #1 film of the year, because it's just weighed down by a lot of things. But what's interesting is people have different perspectives of what they liked of this movie. And I kind of like that. Like, people are like, I like that section, but not this section. I'm like, no, that's my favorite section.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because like, I think I've read more about Ari Aster. What he said was like the original script and everything. And it sounds like the original script was kind of the thing I liked more, because he was like saying that the original script it focused in on like the house. It had the opening scene and it had the where he goes to the suburban house, and then it had the thing with his mother. And I'm like, that's the movie I like. Just those three things, and he's like, yeah, and I added the stuff in the woods and then the stuff on the boat at the end. And I'm like, you went too far.
Yeah.
those are the stuff that should not have been in the movie.
But like you, I appreciate that he went for it.
Yes.
You miss a little bit, but I appreciate that going there. And this isn't a realistic movie by any sense. So a lot of people, like, it's hard to. My big thing is a lot of movies I poke at the logic and I'm like, well, how could this and you can't do that with a movie like this. It's just such an exaggerated reality, and it's like it's the theme kind of I don't want to say gets in the way, but it's at the
Mm,
forefront of, as it's the theme is put ahead of realism in a movie like this, and I appreciated that. Ari Aster,
yes.
of course, is the guy who did Midsummer, and I enjoyed Midsummer. I watched it while we were on our hiatus between seasons here on the Film Fan Club, and since it's not new, I'm not going to review it, but I should say
No.
I like it. So I like his previous work. I haven't
Mm,
seen what Heredity is his first one, but
Hereditary. Yeah.
what?
Hereditary.
They're Hereditary. There was a syllable I missed. For a second I thought I completely got it wrong. So I'm glad I got at least that close. It looks good. Maybe I'll watch it. Anyway,
It's great.
I like to see where I like the track this filmmaker is on. It wasn't quite as high on my list, but I can see why
Mhm.
it's high on yours.
I'm a big fan of his. I do think I like the other Hereditary and Midsummer more. Um, but yeah, I think I mean, it's just it's an excellent film, and I love the performances. I hope we have a Parker Posey as Aunt. She seems like she's getting more and more roles, so she's gonna be in the new season of White Lotus. Not even a big fan of White Lotus, but I'll watch it for Parker.
Yeah.
I love Parker Posey, and so just seeing her in this was amazing, and just all the different characters. I loved all the different the sections of it, and yeah, the stuff with the mother was
Yeah.
the I mean that's just I'm just fascinated by that story, and it's a story that's also hard to kind of even talk about because I mean, it's so out there, it's so strong, of a choice, that I'm just like, okay, and it has to be, I think it should be rewarded, because it's just extraordinary interesting filmmaking.
All right, so now we're in my top two, I believe, right? So the
Top
last
two.
one I talked was Godzilla minus one. I'm very passionate about that, but it's been a second since I've seen it, and of course we have another episode about it coming up, so I didn't want to go too far into it. Number two are two movies that I also watched on our hiatus between seasons of the Film Fan Club show, and I'm most passionate about these two movies. So coming in at number two, it's Wonka with Timothy Chalamet. It was so good. I went in. This might be partially why. I went in expecting it to be horrible. I really did. I had seen some of the trailers. The trailers do not really tell you very much that it's a musical. I love musicals. So I was like thinking, oh, it's just going to be some cheap teen drama remake of, not remake, but updated version of Willy Wonka. Timothy Chalamet is going to be horrible. It's not even going to be, it's going to have all this modern day stuff and jokes and all this that takes you right out of it. No, it's a wholesome. Even have a family, so I don't really care about this, but it's made for the whole family. Timeless tale
Yeah.
of friendship and belonging, family. It's got the best songs that I've seen in a movie musical since Annette, probably. And
Mm.
that's saying something. I think you would like this more than Annette, actually. Um,
Well, I think that's a very low bar to clear.
Annette was the best movie of 2021, and Wonka is the second best movie of 2023. Timothy Chalamet, while not asked to do anything very hard,
Hmm.
he's not given a Leonardo DiCaprio performance in Killers of the Flower Moon, let's say, but
Mhm.
but it's still very good. I just can't stress the songs are great. The story I fell in love with. It's not a prequel to the 1971 movie per se. It's more of a prequel to the story we all know. So you could watch this and then watch the Gene Wilder version. They could make a sequel to this. They've left themselves open. I would only say my only criticism really is that they try to do too much in the end. I feel like there's a couple of movies they could have fleshed out the ending of this film and made a trilogy out of it. I absolutely loved this film. Best second best movie of 2023. Cade, have
Wow.
you seen? There's gonna be more things that I wish I would have said about this movie because I've seen it twice. I saw it at
Wow.
AMC, and then I wanted to support it again at the Circle Cinema, so I went and saw it at the Circle Cinema. Brought my cousin Carrie. He even liked it. He doesn't even like musicals, but I was like, well, you liked the first Willy Wonka, right? That's my checkmate. Is because who doesn't love Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? And that's a musical,
It
right?
is.
So you got to give this one a chance, and they do. And every time somebody does, they like it. It's timeless. This movie's fantastic. It's perfect. I'm still singing the songs to this day. Do you
Wow.
believe me?
Yeah, I mean, I have no reason not to believe you there. Uh,
It's a great movie. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it, so I'll say that. Yeah, I
Wow.
mean,
Why
it
haven't you
didn't
seen it
seem.
yet?
Well, I never saw Paddington. I feel like I'm falling behind with this director, and so anytime I'm like, and
Who
everyone
cares?
loves his stuff.
Don't see Paddington. Go see Wonka.
It's I love the Willy Wonka. I mean, I love even like Roald Dahl, his books. Like I'm a big Roald Dahl fan. So I of his books. He's got some troubling things, but
I don't read.
but oh, uh, yeah,
You
I mean, I
hate
think.
family-friendly fun. This movie's not woke
Well,
enough for
I
you.
do find it weird. Like if I was to just show up to Wonka, like one ticket to Wonka, please, seems a little weird.
I, I have gone with somebody else each time I've
Yeah,
seen it,
yeah.
but
So I mean, I'd have to go. I'd have to plan it. I'd have to be like, who wants to go to Wonka? So
I'm sure
it was just
Diane would
easier.
see it with you.
Yeah, I'm sure Diane would. Yeah, yeah, Diane probably would. I don't know. You're right. I mean, the fact of like there was a lot of people who are like, oh, I feel like this is a musical. They didn't tell us it was a musical, and I do think that's ridiculous. I do think that for some reason Hollywood is very scared to say things are musical. You saw that with like Mean Girls
Mean
and
Girls.
Color Purple, where they're just like a new take.
Yeah.
What's that new take?
It happens to have music. Crazy idea. It's not a
Yeah.
musical. It's a movie with music. It's like,
Well, and the thing is like you're absolutely right that people like old films like Willy Wonka and Wizard of Oz and a lot of these things that
yeah,
we
they're
know of,
classics.
they're classics, and we just think of them as films, and we don't ever really say that they're musical. These are musicals. A lot of these famous old Hollywood things, they are musicals, and but we don't view them as such, which is a weird thing. Like, but you're right that no one views Willy Wonka as a musical, even though it 100% is. And so yeah, so I don't quite get that criticism, but it's just, I mean, it's we haven't really had a hit musical in some time. I mean, so like or multiple hit
Wonka is doing
musicals.
very well right now at the box
Yeah,
office, I would happen to say. It's I've seen it
I think that's
twice.
why people are averse. Is they just don't see it very often. I think that's really what it is. But yeah.
I feel like Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again came out and did all right. They're re-releasing Les Miserables in the theaters at the end of February. By the time
Mhm.
this comes out, it'll already happened, and I'm sure that it'll be
There's
a
one
big
a
hit.
year, La La Land. I mean, there are
That was
like these
great.
ones a year that kind of come around that people, but it's not like
I
it's not
hope I hope
everywhere.
Wonka turns the tide, and
Mhm.
not only does Hollywood embrace musicals more. Babylon, that was a great movie. It completely, I think the marketing
Mhm.
campaign killed that movie, and but I hope they embrace the musical nature of the film in their marketing and say
Yeah.
and be like, hey, we're not afraid. We're here. We're singing, and
Uh-huh.
we're here to stay. So
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to know the music's good. I mean, that's the first time I've
the
even heard that.
soundtrack is
So,
fantastic. There's not
um,
only just one
mhm,
great song like Pure Imagination. They do Pure Imagination. It's good. There's like
mhm,
five great songs: Sweet Tooth, Never Had Chocolate Like This, A World of Your Own, A Hat Full of Dreams. I'm just naming these off the top of my head. I could sing
wow.
all the lyrics right now. I'm not going to. It's a
Mhm.
good
I
movie
do.
though.
I do want to mention you mention Annette as you often do. The we do have our best and worst, which should be out by this point, whenever this film's released, or
Yes.
this podcast is released, of the last season. And I'll break it to you here live. This seems like a fun thing. My worst
No.
movie that we watched that year was, or that season was, a little film called Annette.
The worst movie of the season is
Of
Annette.
this,
Of the whole season of Double Feature Movie Club, which
yeah, yeah,
you see two movies an episode, and
yeah,
there's a lot of
yeah,
episodes. That's a
yeah.
pretty
There's
big list, and you're
Yeah, so
saying
I
it's
think
at
we
the
did
bottom.
10, so we watched 20 films.
20 films, and on that
Uh-huh.
list of 20 films that you saw, Annette is
Hmm.
the bottom. Okay.
It's the bottom, yeah.
You should have told me that before I had you on to talk about your film expertise, because calling that into question now. The best movie of 2021, probably one of the top 10 best movies of the last 10 years, but well, I also
Okay.
like Birdman more than you. You got wrong takes on Birdman, but
Yeah.
we'll get
Just the
there.
thought I'd give
Well,
you
so
that as
far
a
our lists are
gift.
pretty simpatico. I mean, you got a couple.
Mhm.
You talked about Scream 7, and but I mean, I remember I glanced at your list earlier, but I've honestly forgotten the rest of them.
Mhm.
But so I'm excited as we get to 2 and 1 because
Mhm.
you know. Anyways, we'll get there. I just talked about
Yeah.
number two. You may have noticed a little omission on my list so far. We'll see what
Mm,
that number one is and what gets left off the list. We'll see there. But
yeah.
we're only at your number two.
Yes.
Let's
I have
hear
two
your number
more.
two
Yeah.
best film of 2023.
Yes, and I'll just yeah. So this one was on your list earlier as well. This one is Infinity Pool. Is number two for me. I think that this is another one like similar to Bo is Afraid that it swings for the fences and everything. And I just loved it. I really it was odd. It was weird. I haven't seen any of Brendan Cronenberg's other films, which I do want to do maybe do that on double feature, because I just really love this movie and I like a dark film that has that's saying something interesting and kind of going in in ways that you can't really predict what it's doing, but you're like submitting to this film of like, well, I think this is being done well enough that I know it's on some sort of journey, and I'm going to just sit back. I think Ari Aster's films are very similar to that with Hereditary and Midsummer, and I think this was the film that it was very much like that.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I thought the two central performances were again like out there performances,
Yeah.
but really interesting.
Mia
And
Goth is
me,
the female lead, right?
yes, yes,
She's
yes.
just giving it her all, as she
Yeah,
does in anything.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah. And I think like just no inhibitions and just like I mean just giving it like going like out of 10 going at like 25. Like it's a performance that is just swinging like I keep saying for the fences. I mean it is an out there performance, and I think it works for this type of film. And it has interesting themes. I don't want to give too much away about it because I do think it's an experience that you could really get. And it's one that was all the way at the beginning of last year, and
Yeah.
it's just stuck with me in a way that I want to revisit it, but I just love the memory of it. It's a movie that I just love of even just like thinking about it of like I just really liked the idea that was at the center of that movie,
Yeah.
more so than any of the other ones. Like it's just one that is just stuck with me of just the feeling, the visuals, the of all that it can just elicit just an immediate response of what I remember this film is, and I think that's what makes cinema great is that sort of idea.
Had a little twist at the end too, didn't it? Something like that.
I did, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a lot of interesting things going on, and I just love the setting of it.
Yeah.
Like the setting, like I love a good horror film, like a Shining, or even like more recently like the Black Hood's Daughter, or something that just like sets it in a place, and you could just feel this place, and we explore the people there and different things. Like it's just interesting. It's interesting.
I enjoyed it a lot. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's a bad film. It is lower,
Hmm.
on my list, but that's just
Hmm.
because I do think 2023 was a great year for films. A lot of people are not only because it was the death of the superhero genre, but just
Good.
because there were so many biopics that did well,
Hmm.
original films that they may not have done well at the box office, but they were great. And I think and some films that like I said, the aforementioned biopics like Oppenheimer doing so well. I think it's a good sign of what's to come. And again,
I
yeah, go ahead.
I do think that we're going to look back on this year as one of the great years. I do think that. I think it's a really great year for
Yeah.
cinema. I mean, looking at all of them and even things that aren't on my list that didn't make it, that are really great films that I'm like, oh, this is kind of a different year. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the death of superheroes, and I they're doing them
Hopefully,
wrong.
maybe not the death of superheroes, but I hope it's the death of bad superhero movies.
Yes,
So
yes.
anyways, let's wrap it up here with our number ones. I'll start, and luckily I've noticed our lists
Mm.
are missing a couple, so
Mhm.
I think I remember that maybe we have a
I think it's
similar
pretty
number one
obvious what
here.
my number one
I
is.
think
Yeah.
I know, and same
Hmm.
with mine. And I'll go ahead and say it first. Killers of the Flower Moon. It's the best movie of the year. I worked so hard to bring it to you guys, and all my hard work paid off. Thank God. It's for those who didn't see our bonus episode when we reviewed it in a bonus episode, so I won't repeat too much here. My official title was transportation production assistant, but really behind the scenes, that did so much more. Daily meetings, Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio. They're like, Sam, bringing me coffees and stuff like that. It's nice. We were just all talking about it. I
It's
worked
all
so hard.
transportation, really.
Yeah, it's all transportation. We're all going places. I mean,
Yeah.
really. And boy, is this movie! It's my Oscar pick of the year. Luckily, the Academy gets it wrong lots of times. The Annette situation sticks out. It's nominated Killers of the Flower Moon, and I mean, it's very clear, from where your list is heading, and obviously from my list, it is the best movie of the year. So yeah, like Killers of the Flower Moon is what I got to say. Cade, you want to agree with me on that? What's your number one of the year?
Yeah, I don't want to agree with you on that one. My number one is Oppenheimer.
What are you
Mhm.
talking about?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's Killers isn't on my list, which is a
It's
yeah.
not even number 10 or 11, or it's not number
No,
one. It's
it's
Oppenheimer.
it's not
Why
it's not
would
in the top
Oppenheimer
10.
be anywhere other than where did I have it? Why would Oppenheimer be anywhere other than number 5? It's fine. I said it in my review right there. It's
Hmm.
fine.
Yeah. 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 Well, I would
Did
have
you
to
know
disagree with
Killers
you
of the
there.
Flower Moon was longer?
I did know that. I certainly felt that in the cinema. Um, no, I mean, yeah. yeah, we talked about Killers on our show as well, and we talked about Oppenheimer. But I mean, to me, I mean, you sort of said, yeah, I mean, Oppenheimer. To me, it's also kind of like it couldn't be anything else. Like, I mean, it should sweep the Academy Awards. It should, to me, it's undeniably, objectively, just the best film.
Objectively, the best film is
Objectively,
Oppenheimer, not Killers
I
of the Flower Moon, is what you're saying.
yes, yeah, I'm saying. I mean, I just think it's the best film of the year. I mean, just on a technical level, on just what it achieves and what its scope and like just different things of just where it fires on all cylinders, which is and it's just the most movie. And it should
Not
be
the not in runtime.
yeah,
Does it
yeah.
have title cards? I can't even remember. Killers of the Flower Moon had title cards.
Interesting.
They
Yeah.
were great.
Yeah, no, but I mean, Killers.
You're just a
We talked
Florence
about.
Pugh fan.
I'm just such a huge Florence Pugh fan. So this is a big film for me. Yeah. No, that discourse is ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know. Okay. Let me. I guess I talk about Killers real quick. Killers. Yeah. I'm not. It's the other film besides Barbie that I've soured on since seeing it. I just don't. I don't.
Sour on it. The whole point of the movie
Mhm.
with Martin Scorsese at the end is the whole theme of the film right there. Yes, he
Mhm.
understands that he's a white guy telling an Indian story. That he recognized it's him checking his privilege. You talked about that on your show, I believe. You had a big problem with his cameo at the end. That's the whole
Mhm.
point of the I thought you evolved in the right way, Cade. I thought you would
Yeah.
come around on this, but you're telling me that it's not anywhere on your top 10. Do you at least agree with me that the theme is very well represented in the end?
No, I don't.
And it shows them drumbeat because the Osage persevere. That's the third ending.
Yeah,
it's the best ending.
but
The Godfather
yes,
had wait, which one? Lord of the Rings, Return of the King had multiple endings, and that movie was good.
they get 5 seconds of a drum beat to say that they persevere, and like in the whole movie you get Leonardo DiCaprio getting these monologues and these things and all this like the movie's hyper focused on that performance and Robert De Niro, which I do think is a really great performance.
Best supporting actor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Robert Downey Jr. should get best supporting. I think.
Oh,
that's
you
better,
just are
better.
You're just saying that.
No, it is. It's a better performance. I mean, it's an extraordinary performance. But Robert De Niro is great. De Niro is the second best.
Have you seen King of Comedy? King of Comedy is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that Robert that
you really think that he
Downey's
gave a better
actor.
performance in Avengers Endgame than Robert De Niro did in King of Comedy? That's what you're saying.
That is not what I'm saying. I mean, yeah, but no,
Robert Downey Jr. had his lines fed through an earpiece in the Avengers movies.
I hate to sort of spoil something for you, but De Niro's got some of that stuff going on too. No, what I'm saying is, the point of what I'm trying to make here is that Lily Gladstone should get the award. She should. She elevated a performance, and that's harder work to do. To elevate what's on the page as she did. She took it to a place that that was not on the page. I'm sorry. And so so she deserves it because I do think it's the most work that an actor had to do this year.
Oh my gosh. Part of that is the director directs the actor.
So if you look
and the
at
actress,
Holdovers, it is that's what I was setting up earlier because I knew this was probably going to come. That the movie routinely rests the whole picture on like Divine's performance, like, and she's a supporting actress in that movie, and so is Lily in Killers of the Flower Moon, but whatever. And the movie routinely gives that the whole weight of the film on this shoulder. Routinely, the movie never gave that to Lily. They routinely gave the whole movie to Leo, the whole movie to Robert De Niro, and never once did it give it to any of the native people in the movie, where they rested the entire film on their shoulders. They were supporting actors in this movie, and it is they were never the point of view characters, and that is a problem, in my opinion.
You're comparing it against a movie you wrote in your head, and that's not fair.
Okay.
Yeah, they got you. I've heard that somewhere before, and I took that and I just threw it right at you. You got nothing to say to it, don't you? You wish this was the Holdovers. Well, guess what? This isn't the Holdovers. This is. I don't know where I'm going. I lost my train of thought. Damn it! Killers of the Flower Moon is the best movie of 2023. I'm sorry, it's not Oppenheimer, but don't worry, the Academy has my back. I have not seen the future, but I have it on good authority that somebody's going to be coming out on top this year, buddy. His name's Sam Carrico. I'm still waiting on my invite to the Oscars, but it's coming. It's coming. Oscar-nominated filmmaker right here. Anyways, Cade Thomas, thank you so much for joining the show. Double feature movie club and Cade and Friends. Are they both back in season by the time we release this? Meaning, if they want to find new episodes on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, can they right now?
So, yes, Double Feature starting its new season around the same time. So go and check that out. New episodes will be coming. They should have started by the time this is out. So check that out. We'll be going through all the other Best Picture nominees. So maybe my list would change if I had seen them before. So
watch Killers again.
I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. But I am watching the other 6 that we haven't seen yet. So we'll have reviewed all the Best Picture nominees, and then join us for the Oscars there. A lot of really fun things. Cade and Friends will return in the summer. Yes. So they're not going to be at the same time anymore because that about killed me.
Yeah.
So
but
they
always they could find it at youtube.com/Cade Thomas. Is that it?
Yes, that is absolutely right. And wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome. Cade, thank you so much for joining the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's our show. I want to thank Cade Thomas for joining us this week. Next week, we're going to talk more about Barbie. Is it an original screenplay or an adapted screenplay? My answer may surprise you, or will it? Then Alex McKellar will be here to talk about Dune Part 2. Do I like it more than the first one? Less? About the same? We'll have to find out. That's next week on the Film Fan Club show. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube or follow us on your favorite podcasting app. I'm Sam Carrico. I'll see you then.